Brad with the Squared Away Everyday channel, and today we're going to be talking about toppers on your truck, and we're looking for the very best topper that you could have for overland use. Is this the best topper that you could put on your truck for overland use? I think so. Let's kind of get into it. Okay, so when I went to actually start shopping for a topper, I wanted to fit a few different criteria into just a list of stuff that I needed. It's probably going to be a very similar list to what you're looking for your overland rig, if you're looking to do a rooftop tent or just overland stuff in general. But for me, number one was I wanted it to be very rigid. I wanted the rack on top to be so rigid that I could leave this on top for half the year, majority of the year, whatever, and I didn't necessarily have to baby it, and it was actually going to be able to handle the abuse of going off-road and hitting all the bumps and the ruts and stuff like that with weight on top of the rack there. So that was number one. Number two was I wanted to be able to lock up my gear, which meant I wanted to have a aluminum type door that would open from the sides. So a couple things happening right there. The aluminum door is important for me, whether I'm at the grocery store or I'm traveling out of state and I'm going from hotel to campsite or back and forth as we travel through different states. I wanted to be able to lock up our gear so that, number one, you couldn't see what was in there, so it just didn't tempt anybody in the first place. And number two, that it was a lot harder to get into rather than just glass, and you could just bust the glass out and grab whatever you needed to. So visibility was a thing for me, and also security. So this is a good medium here in terms of the aluminum, and I think this is double paneled. So there's that. Check right there. And then I needed it to be able to lock. So I needed some sort of locking handle or locking door in general. In conjunction with that, I wanted these doors, I still needed access. I still needed to be able to get into the side of them, reach in there and get gear out, so I didn't have to climb through the back of the bed to get any sort of stuff out that I needed. So I wanted them to have the doors. And so that kind of hit all my bases right there. And then the third thing when I was looking for an overland topper was I wanted it to fit the lines of the truck very well. Now that's for a few different reasons there. And the big reason is, if it fits the lines of the truck very well, then typically it's going to be able to repel water or keep water out much better than if it was kind of a bad shape. And I've seen a lot of them that don't fit very well on these third gen Tacomas. So is the fit good? How well is it actually going to repel water? How water repellent or waterproof is the thing going to be to protect my gear? So those are the three things. I wanted it to be rigid and be able to hold a rooftop tent. I wanted the door, or I wanted to be able to have a opening door that was still pretty rigid for security, and you couldn't just break glass. I didn't want people to be able to see in here. I wanted it to have a locking T-handle or a locking handle of some sort. And I wanted it to be a very good form so that it would prevent water from getting in there as much as possible. So those were kind of some of the biggies for me. I needed those three things at the very least. And then aside from that, I wanted to have a topper that wasn't going to be overly heavy. And that was kind of that's kind of hard to find, because you want it to be rigid enough to be able to take the abuse of the off-road life, but at the same time, you don't want it to be so heavy duty that it just weighs down the back end. Like there's a couple of toppers like the, I think it's RLD design, which is stainless steel or it's some type of steel, and that one's quite a bit heavier than this setup. So yes, it's more rigid, but am I reaching the point of diminishing returns in terms of how rigid it is and how durable? Do I need quite that much? Probably not. So for me, this was a really good fit. So what was the model that I actually decided to go with? Well, this is the A.R.E.CXHD topper. And I decided to go with this because what else could you want, really? I mean, if you're looking for a topper to secure your goods, have side access, have locking handles, a locking wind door that is aluminum, and then you also want to have some very rigid racks. I mean, what else could you ask for? This is a great topper here when you're talking about overlanding stuff in general. And let's kind of break down why. So for one, you've got this locking T-handle here, which is terrific to store your goods in there. We've got an aluminum skeleton inside of this A.R.E.CXHD, and the aluminum skeleton actually supports these roof racks here. So on a typical topper, you're going to be looking at roof racks that either have some sort of track system where you can put like a Prinsu or a front runner or something like that on top of it. This particular topper, and again, it's the A.R.E.CXHD, and this one has the internal skeleton, and then it actually supports the crossbars up here. So you can't put your own rack on. I mean, you could probably put like, you know, a Prinsu rack on top of the load bars or a front runner rack on top of the load bars, and it would raise it up a little bit. And maybe I'll do that at some point. And we'll talk about how this all kind of mends together in a different video. But my point is, there's an aluminum skeleton, it supports these bars, and it makes it very rigid. Rather than the bars just being supported by the fiberglass structure, now it's supported by an actual aluminum structure that is braced on the top of the bed, so it has all of that energy in the aluminum skeleton versus just on fiberglass, which is really important to me. So that was an important thing. That's probably my favorite aspect of this. And again, it's the A.R.E.CXHD, and that's awesome. And then in conjunction with that, these locking doors, can you see out them? No, you certainly can't see out them. Is my rear also metal? Yeah, it is. It's also aluminum. And you have these backup cameras on here, so it's fine. I'm not gonna run over like dogs or anything I don't wanna hit. And you just be kind of careful when you back up. Use your mirrors more, that kind of thing. But for me, having the rigidity that this has, having the security that this has, what else could you ask for? Do you really need the doors? Maybe, or I mean the windows. Maybe you do. If you have a dog that's back here and you need some venting, maybe you do. But there's also a sliding glass door that goes into the cab where you can get a little bit of ventilation. It's probably not the best on a super hot day if you have a dog. But for me, this is a very good option. If you're not gonna be camping with a dog or having animals back here, this is probably the best topper that you could go with. Now this particular one that I have, you notice that the door is actually like a flat black, and normally when you get these, it's going to be color matched to the rest of the topper. I didn't want that. I didn't want this to look like a work truck, so I had them do a custom matte black finish on it, or matte black paint on it at the factory at A.R.E. And you know, they warned against it, and I thought that it would just look good, and it does look very good. And they will probably charge you a little bit extra money to get that feature, but to me, it's rigid, it's secure for your belongings inside, and you can lock it up. That's important. Okay, so in closing, I'll probably get some people that are like, hey Brad, why didn't you just do the GFC, the Go Fast Camper? The Go Fast Camper is pretty much the same thing that I've going on here. You've got some way to sleep up top, a rooftop tent style thing. Now for them, it's a wedge tent, and then you have a way to secure your goods, and I think they're aluminum doors. So why wouldn't I just do that? And it's got a internal, I don't know if it's steel or aluminum rack system that makes it very rigid. So it's almost the same thing that I have here. Why didn't I just go with that? Well, for me, I wanted more versatility. And when you have something like this, you can take the tent off, you can put a different tent on, you don't have to have a tent at all if you decide to just start ground camping. It doesn't really matter. It offers you a lot of different options. I can put a different roof rack on there if I want to, on top of the load bars. Prinsu, front runner, it doesn't really matter. It gives you a ton of options, whereas the Go Fast Camper just kind of pigeonholes you into a wedge style tent, and you have to leave it up there all the time. So for me, I wanted a little bit more versatility, and for you, you should consider that as well too. Let's say the wedge style tent is good for you now. Is it going to be good if you have a family? Is it going to be good if you have, you know, another kid and now you've got 4 kids and you need something bigger? Maybe you need a Sky Camp 2.0 where you've got a king size mattress. I don't know, but I just like this system better because first of all, the availability of it, but even that aside, without the wait times of GFC, I like the versatility. So that's pretty much it, guys. I don't have anything else for you. Is this the best Overland topper that you can buy? I certainly think so, and I gave you the reasons why. If you have any additional toppers that you've seen that are just awesome, feel free to comment down below. And if you like this video, please like, subscribe, and we will see you in the next one.